So let's talk about spotting tongs and tooth rack timing. Someone had reached out, and we're kind of doing this as for lack of a better term, a public service, because maybe there's some mystery in timing the spotting tongs. We're gonna start by locating this little hole, right? That is gonna be our reference. We're gonna go 180 degrees from that. You see that little circle? We're gonna mark that tooth with a marker. We're gonna do that side too, and then flip it over. We're also going to mark the top side. We're doing this because it happens to be fairly convenient. I'm in the middle of cleaning and rebuilding a setting table. So we've got our drive rack on, we've got our bevel gears here. We want to go all the way forward, spotting tongs all the way open. And we're gonna set, well here, let's mark this also. We're aiming for what we're going to call the second valley, right? So we have a peak and a valley, and a peak and our second valley. That's going to be our reference point. We want this reference point to line up with this metal tab. And then we want our timing mark on our spotting tongs to line up with the timing mark that we've made on our tooth rack. I'm going to have to go to the other side. So the reason that we do this, or the way I do it, is that I'm marking the top side of our spotting tong gear also, so that we can see it in a multitude of positions. It's going to be hard to do in the machine. So we're all lined up right there, right? Middle of the tab, second valley, timing mark. So again, I might have a little bit of free play here. That's not a huge deal. So, but the big thing is marked tooth on the spotting tong, marked valley, middle of that tab, with our spotting tongs all the way open. The question was, more specifically, how do you advance the timing on all of your spotting tongs? Or why, right? What we ended up noticing is, even with the last table we rebuilt, we installed it factory timed, perfect factory timing, and it went to pick up pins and they all dropped down, like all 10 of them. Brand new spotting tongs, factory timing, switch cluster timing up on the table drive shaft, perfect, still drop pins. What we noticed several years ago is that if we changed our timing, if we advanced the tooth rack timing 1 degree, or one tooth, not 1 degree, pardon me, that it wouldn't drop pins anymore. And the easiest way to achieve that, let's assume that we have all 10 of our spotting tongs on. We're going to manually drive our tooth rack closed, right? Our spotting tong is closing. We want to get to a point where we see our second peak just sticking out. It's in line with this number 3 spotting tong. Then we're going to remove this gear. We would do the same thing for this tooth rack row and the rear tooth rack row at the same time. So you'll need a 10mm and a Phillips head screwdriver to remove this gear. You'll have to forgive me. You guys are a little bit sideways, but it should still work just fine, right? I'm going to remove this idler gear. Before we get that all the way out, hold on. We shifted just a little bit, right? Go back, let's line up peak number 2 with the edge of our spotting tong. pop this guy out, just out of the way, real quick. And instead of 2 peaks sticking out on the tooth rack, we're gonna make 3. Boom. This will shift the entire tooth rack row. You have to be careful not to let it shift too much while it's out. It can. A little bit. Not bad. I also don't have this spotting tong fully bolted down. But now, let's look at it from another angle. We're going to open our spotting tongs back up. I'm going to need 2 hands real quick. I'm going to hold this in place because it's not bolted down. And with the other hand, I'm just going to open the spotting tongs. You can see we're on the 3rd peak now. But take a look at our timing. It's shifted, right? We no longer line up. Our teeth are still in time, right? Our relationship there hasn't changed. Our relationship between that tooth rack and this one have. So this is an easy way to do all 10 spotting tongs by simply removing 2 screws. One for the rear idler and one for the front idler. So number 3 and number 10. And then you can build it all out the same way. Or what I like to do is I'll do all 10 stock, right? Verify everything's good. And then I'll do this little timing modification. So the drawback to this is that the spotting tongs, when they're fully open, aren't actually 100% fully open. And the pin holders that mount in here, especially on, let's say 4, 5, 6, can smack into the spotting tongs. They're really not supposed to. I haven't noticed a whole lot of anything negative about that. So I'm not super worried about it at this point. We've had some machines in here that we've made this timing modification, and they've been running fine for the last 7 years. So I don't think it's a huge deal, and maybe somebody will disagree with me. You know, I talked to the guys at tech support, and I told them, hey, our machines are dropping pins and everything is perfect. And they said, no, that shouldn't happen. We don't, you know, I don't know what to tell you. It shouldn't be doing that. But it was. I hope that this might help you in the future, especially if you have a pin setter that happens to be dropping pins and maybe you can't really find out why, you know, you can't figure out the why of it, you know. Try a slightly different timing method. Might help you out. I feel like I do need to make one disclaimer though. This is not for worn out spotting tongs, right? This is if you have brand new spotting tongs. Worn out spotting tongs are a different issue, and that was covered in the last video, which sparked a question that led to this video. So if you have worn out spotting tongs, you do have some solutions. Feel free to go backwards in time and watch that little video.